we've talked a lot about different ways we can show up in our community. And our keynote for this afternoon, HwaJeong Kim, is showing up in pretty meaningful ways here in St. Paul. She runs Minnesota Voice, which does a lot of important work here in the state and is active in the community, talking to the grassroots, not just working with peers in organization, but also with her friends and neighbors. HwaJeong, thank you so much for being here.
Hi, everyone. Okay, perfect. Yeah, hi, good afternoon, everyone. HwaJeong Kim. My name means as the petals unfurl. Leave it to a dad to be very romantic. I use she, her pronouns. I'm a naturalized citizen, and I'm a queer woman of culture. I'm the executive director of Minnesota Voice. We're the largest C3 civic engagement network in the state. If you're familiar with State Voices National, we're one of their affiliates. And if I look familiar to you, I am with all of you in my nonprofit role today. So first, I just want to start with an acknowledgement that we are on Indigenous land. So, to Turtle Island, while we fight fascists in our streets, many have described this as an authoritarian occupation, which is a harsh truth. And with the same breath that screams, abolish ICE, no one is illegal on stolen land, and migration is both beautiful and natural, we must also reckon with the fact that we presently maintain a genocidal settler state that has harmed Indigenous people for generations. We must repair broken treaties, reflect on the horrific history of boarding schools, address truth and reconciliation, the occupation of stolen land, and the continued and deliberate destruction of Indigenous communities today. So I invite all of you to think and reflect on how your own beliefs around protecting Turtle Island and how they may still connect to our profit-driven destruction. From Turtle Island to Palestine to my divided homelands of Korea, may we share space and heart today for the next 7 generations to be free of colonial violence. This shouldn't come as a surprise to all of you, but I'm not really a founding fathers kind of girly. But some view the Constitution as our greatest guardrail to protect our democracy. And yet, we see places across the world that have bragged about utilizing our documents to establish their own independent republic models, adopt bicameral legislatures, Supreme Courts, and even in some cases, electoral colleges. And they've all, not all, but most, have plummeted into civil war, dictatorship, and military coups. It's to say, no matter how the guardrail is written, like our American Constitution, it cannot by itself ensure democracy. Easy criticisms of the Constitution are that it's incomplete. There's too many interpretations, and there's no standard operating procedure. Or in nonprofit speak, we call that an SOP. How many of you have heard of the Iroquois Confederacy and the Great Law of Peace? Okay, a few hands, all right. 5 sovereign nations unifying under a system of peace, consensus, and democracy. It's a governing system that Indigenous nations had guarding their societies against tyranny and resource hoarding long before the Constitution. And although most Americans don't know it, its prints are all over the foundation of this country and our democracy. Women and Two-Spirits were powerful. They chose clan leaders. They maintained the moral fabric of community, and they created systems of accountability. They removed men who didn't uphold their standards of leadership. What if the missing piece to our appropriated founding documents was Indigenous sovereignty? How different this moment would look if we had honored the treaties. And I think a lot about that after everything we've experienced in Minnesota. In Iroquois society, democratic leaders remember 7 generations past and 7 generations in the future. And the simple principle was the medicine against tyranny. Instead of the inclusion of women and two-spirits, instead of upholding a moral fabric of society and creating collective mechanisms for accountability, we credit the erosion of American democracy to the rise of authoritarianism. Fair, right? Rejection of the rules? Check. Denial of the legitimacy of political opponents? Check. Toleration and encouragement of political violence? Check. Stifling the civil liberties of opponents, including media? Check. It all makes sense. But the harsh truth is that authoritarians and fascists have risen through democracy's checks and balances, like our partisan endorsements, our primaries, and even the Electoral College. Not to mention that these checks and balances are also processes of exclusive selection. So what if the greatest threat to our democracy wasn't authoritarianism, but a better offer? So as we dream and scheme, friends, I ask you, what is our better offer for a new democracy? If an authoritarian concentrates power, a democratic consolidation has to do the opposite. It has to decentralize power, center the voices of those most impacted, and builds a system that is resistant to future misuse. And earlier this morning, on the panel, David Nicholson talked about it as the 3Ds. Who remembers what those were? Say it a little bit louder.
Determine, discipline, decentralize.
Yes, perfect. And this includes building a system that is both resistant to future misuse, but it also means that it has to be resistant to the seizure of the movement that just won and is in power. And I don't mean the Cheeto in chief right now. The path to a strong democracy isn't for good guys to amass the same precious levers of power. And let's be real, there's so much at stake. Trans rights, gender-affirming care, our voting rights, the safety of our immigrant communities, all of that is on the table. And I don't want to be overly critical of what we saw in Virginia with their redistricting. But we are being tested and tempted to use the master's tools. If we win, when we build systems, but they can't fall into the wrong hands, or believe that good people using broken systems for the right reasons, or if what we build is too dangerous for anyone less virtuous and moral than ourselves to use, then we've built the next infrastructure for authoritarianism. This means that we, the movement, must build a structural reality where we can lose. I'm going to say that one more time. This means we, the movement, must build a structural reality where we can lose. And where holding power isn't about winning, but building future institutions that ensure the transfer of power from a winner-takes-all system to a proportional representative democracy. Articulated much better by Lani Guinier, power doesn't precede principle. Principle is what we use to build power. So what if our better offering is a refounding of our democracy, one that shares power and is resistant to abuse? And most importantly, establishes a renewed fundamental truth. Our democracy values your vote, and the inclusion of all of our voices is a foundational requirement. A diverse democracy is the assignment. How we reclaim a new democratic vision is our homework. Lani Guinier talks about our communities being the canaries in the coal mine for inequitable systems. But when we all signal that the atmosphere is too toxic to those who have caged us, we are characterized as if something is wrong with us, as if we are lacking. She goes on to talk about how humorous of an idea it would be to fixate tiny like oxygen masks to tiny birds. But the point that she's making is when we focus on improving the mining conditions for the oxygen-sensitive canary, we improve conditions for everyone in the mine. Or another way of saying it, those closest to the pain need to be closest to the creation of the solutions. Lonnie has her canary in the coal mine. Maya Angelou tells us why the caged bird sings. Singing acts as a defiance against oppression, a way to survive trauma and claim humanity when our freedom has been stolen. Toni Morrison challenges us to think about the function of racism even as a cage of our minds. How much time do we spend convincing someone else of our humanity and our reason for being? And last but not least, Bell Hooks pulls us to the margin. How many of you heard of leading from the margin? By a show of hands. Okay, great, so I'm in a good room. If white, cisgender, heteronormative supremacy is the center, then the margin is the site of resistance. But the goal of the margin isn't to extend as layers around whiteness as if to stifle it, because it remains the center. We cannot continue to utilize our resistance while maintaining white hetero cis supremacy as the centrality. So our work is to create a new center of gravity, our shared liberation. We don't choose the margin as a refusal of white supremacy, but as an intention to understand our subjugation by unraveling it at the fray. And it's not just Black, Indigenous, Latina, Asian, queer, trans, two-spirits that need to understand our oppression, but it's our allies, and we heard earlier today, it's our accomplices as well. They too need to be freed from heteronormativity. They too need to be released from the poisonous myth of whiteness. If generational trauma can be inherited, so can generational violence. And I realized maybe that's why I'm feeling a little bit crispy. Anyone feeling a little bit burned out? Besides literally fighting fascists and secret police in our streets, I think maybe I'm burned out because destruction is a tool of colonialism and white supremacy. And me and my ancestors, we were meant to nurture new worlds. So for me, destruction isn't the goal, but I choose the margin to build radical and irresistible futures. A tactic of authoritarianism is to steal our ability to dream. One strategy is to honor Indigenous teachings shared with us and to think about how we're making decisions 7 generations in the future. The other is through Afrofuturism, which I hope to honor and share with all of you today. So I'm going to read a very brief excerpt from Sun Ra. Sun Ra is considered one of the pioneers of Afrofuturism. And if you haven't caught on yet, I was a literature major in college. I am strange. My mind is tinted with the colors of madness. They fight in silent fear in their effort to possess each other. I'm strange. I've approached a degree of love that is so unwise in one world that it is wisdom in another. I'm strange. I no longer have respect for hate. I'm stronger than hate. I'm contemptuous both of those who hate and those who destroy. I'm not a part of the world which hates and the world which destroys. I want a better world, and not only do I want a better world, I seek a life. I seek to live a better life, and that I might have a right to be a part of a better world. If I hate and destroy, I have no right to speak of love. Love is greater than hate, and I have chosen love above everything else in the world. So I'm gonna do something a little unconventional for a keynote to do, but just hang with me. I'm going to invite you all to close your eyes. Drop your shoulders. Relax your tongue. Focus on your breath. And I want you to dream of a wild, wondrous, ludicrous future for us and for our democracy. With your physical eyes closed, I want you to open your mind's eye. Place yourself in our future. What does it smell like? What does it taste like? How does it feel in your guts? See what's there. What isn't there? What's your outfit of the day? So I want you to shout out what you see. What have we built? What's there in our radical future?
Community. Safety.
Eradication of poverty.
Empathy. Kindness. Peace.
Grace.
Happiness.
No homeless person.
Joy.
Dancing.
Abundance.
Food sovereignty.
Billie Holiday.
If she's not there, I don't want to be there. So keep your eyes closed, and by a show of hands, if radical worlds, keep your eyes closed, if radical worlds are cultivated in the margins, how many of you believe that you have a place in that future that we just spoke into existence? Raise your hand. That you have a place in this future. All right, now open your eyes and look around. Keep your hands up. A better world is not only necessary, it is possible. And most importantly, it is happening. It is happening right now because of each and every single one of you. Thank you so much for sharing time and space with me today. And thank you to A More Equitable Democracy for inviting me to speak with all of you. Have a really great afternoon, everyone.
Hey, if you made it to the end of the video, you must have liked what you saw. So you should head over to our website, equitabledemocracy.org, so you can sign up for our mailing list and stay up to date on all the new things we're working on. Also, if you want to head back to our YouTube channel, you can listen to our award-winning podcast, watch riveting documentaries, or check out new content just like this.